The very first episode of To The Point for the week. It is Monday, June 22nd, 2020. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN Television Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, those of you on GBN channel 7, 11 and 20, and the folks always logged on to Classic 105 and Hot 98. Special good morning to each and every one of you, and thank you once again for joining us on the program. This morning we are talking about labor in the workplace in these COVIDious times, and I have joining me via Zoom this morning is President General of the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, Andre Lewis. Good morning, Mr. Lewis.
Hi, good morning, Blossom, and good morning to the listening and viewing public.
Thank you so much. He is also president of the TUC, yes? And?
Yes,
yes, if my memory serves me right. So I just had to make sure the brain's cooperating with me. Mr. Lewis, before we get into these specific issues, I know there are a few. Let's start with a general outlook. Your thoughts as president of the TUC and GTAU, your overall general thoughts of the current working or labor relations in Grenada in this economic climate, as well as during these COVID-19 pandemic.
As I said, thank you very much for having me here this morning. However, before I give a general look at the issues, permit us in the labor movement to pay tribute to a stalwart, one of the most outstanding leaders of the labor movement over the last 30 or so years. I speak here of Sister Lord Clarkson, who passed away yesterday. We want to extend condolences to our family. We have spoken to our family as coming from the TUC and the labor movement, but nationally and publicly, we want to express our condolences to the family on her passing. Sister Clarkson has contributed tremendously to the labor landscape in Grenada, Carriacou, Pitimatic, and I dare say is now involved in the public service international. One would recall for those of us who are around, though young, and those who are interested in history of the labor movement, the leadership role played by Sister Clarkson in the early days after the Grenada invasion by the United States of America, when workers' rights were under tremendous pressure following the turning back of the Grenada Revolution. And Sister Clarkson would have played a leading role in the public sector negotiations, getting one of the bigger and better payouts for public officers. So the public officers who are in the service today, and for those who are at home, must remember the role played by Sister Clarkson. And we are very grateful in the labor movement for our family for having shared her with us. It would not have been an easy time. I've been a woman, especially, and having to lead the thousands upon thousands of public officers in a government that were hell-bent on crushing the will of the people. But her outstanding leadership and her singleness of purpose would have carried the workers through. Also, a contribution to the nursing fraternity. She's a nurse. As a matter of fact, in the health sector, they refer to her as mother. So much has her impact been. And for us, the current leadership of the Trade Union Council and the other affiliated unions, we owe a whole debt of gratitude to Sister Clarkson. And therefore, we are calling on all the trade union members and trade unions as a show of respect to at least fly the flag at half-mast or fly a black flag for those who do not have a trade union flag to be flown. So, as I said, we start with a sad note this morning, but it is a sad note, but also one that gives us and calls upon us to recommit ourselves to the struggles that Sister Clarkson and others before her would have led. So, Comrade Clarkson, we commit ourselves to that cause for which you have given such a large part of your life.
Looking at Ms. Clarkson, what would you say her biggest impact would be specifically in the trade union movement? Maybe her most flagship focus or flagship?
Well, certainly the public sector struggles of the, as I say, 89, 88, 89, when H.A. Blaise, Honorable H.A. Blaise was Prime Minister. And as I say, many of us would have been young at that time, but I can clearly remember as a young member of the Technical and Allied Workers Union at that time, the tremendous role that she played. I can also vividly remember the different doubts that came up at times as to where is the struggle going, and the resoluteness in which she showed. And we are confident that without the type of leadership, as I said, given the fact that she's also a lady, a woman in those times, yes, and the way she was able to hold the troops together, that is of tremendous importance. Also, don't forget the importance of the healthcare sector. And Sister Clarkson would have had total control and influence over the healthcare sector, given her role within the Nursing Association, given the leadership role she played in the health sector, given the role that she played in the public workers union. And therefore her flagship must have been that leadership in that tumultuous times following the Grenada invasion. Yes, when it was felt that workers' rights would have been trampled because you came out of the revolution that was pro-worker. You came out of the revolution where people felt a sense of purpose and belonging, and there was a class consciousness on the part of workers. Yes, and then now with the invasion, where it appears as though the table might have been flipped for a moment, where the employer class and in particular the government wanting to prove the ideological position to the United States, yes, in terms of being anti-worker, etc. It took the leadership of the movement. It is a collective leadership, but certainly spearheaded by Sister Clarkson, who were the leader of the public sector negotiations at that time. Yes, it was a collective effort. All different forces played their hand, as the solidarity with the labor movement normally goes. But that single figure, we do not believe that anyone else at that particular moment in history could have played that role, given the fact that she would not have been tainted. They could not have accused Sister Clarkson of having political objective, of wanting to fight the government, or looking for power. But they must have admitted that she was doing this for bread and butter. She was doing this in the interest of the working class. And this is a crucial period, as I said. This is a crucial period when quite a number of the other unions would have been under tremendous pressure, feeling the weight and the might of the mighty United States through its different local forces. But Sister Clarkson stood up together with the other leaders at that time. Yeah? And she would have, despite whatever challenges, and there would have been challenges, she rose to that occasion. And regardless of what pressure she may have been placed under at that time, she did not give in. And therefore she must be remembered for this. And the role that she played. I remember meeting Sister Clarkson during this COVID period. I ran into her. I can't recall where, but it was not just out in the public like this. And I am much better off even right now for this brief discussion, the reassurances that she gave, the issues that she pointed out about the need to remain focused, the recognizing that these are not easy times, but look, she's confident that the labor movement will continue and we have to do what is necessary. And when you speak to people like Comrade Clarkson, who would have been at the twilight of their time, and they recognize that quiet but firm resolve for workers' rights and the poor and oppressed people, it only served to help strengthen us in this period. And this we are eternally grateful for.
Thank you so much for that. All right, let's get into the...
Yes, this period, basically, as we say in this COVID period, as I think you have coined that word so much, plus, this period has brought out the best and worst in people. And this is a period when a number of employers have stayed true to recognizing and respecting the rights of the worker and the rights of the employer. There are rights and responsibilities. Not only workers have rights, but employers also have rights. Let's understand that. And quite a number of employers have stayed true to that. Quite a number of employers, recognizing that they are faced with uncharted challenges, complex in some is nature, have reached out to the trade unions, respective trade unions, to engage in discussions. And even in places where there ain't no trade union, they have reached out and spoken to the workers, trying to discuss ways and means of adapting to the new normal, for want of a better word. But there are quite a number of employers who have used this period to whittle away and take away, yank away the rights of the workers that they would have enjoyed and fought for over the years. We have had cases where, without discussion with employees, companies have extended the working hours of workers beyond a normal workday without even paying overtime. And even if it is difficult to pay overtime, there is no engagement or discussion with the worker. And recognizing that the worker has less power now, and I'll explain that. There is no doubt that quite a number of businesses have shared jobs. There's no doubt that a number of businesses had to close during that period. There's no doubt that it was clearly understood that if a worker was to lose his or her job today, it might be difficult to get one in any short order. And therefore, with using this as one of the pressure points, quite a number of employers sought to do what they want to the workers. So for instance, at the time, as I've discussed before, some of the conditions, or one of the conditions for certain business places being allowed to open or reopen, for the provision of transport. That is before the public transport were allowed to come back to some semblance of normalcy. It was the responsibility of the employer to get that worker to and from work. Quite a number of employers didn't do that. Quite a number of employers dropped the workers to work and then left it up to the worker to find his or her way back to their home. You have instances where they are changing salaries. Where they're changing salaries. Workers' salaries have been reduced, even if they work same amount of time, or not been paid for the reduced time that they have worked for. And employers have made unilateral decisions to cut the workers' pay without any discussion. Although there is a procedure to be followed if you have to interfere with someone's salary. And it is clearly spelled out in the Labour Code. But life has shown many times that it is about power and who controls power in this relationship. And there is no doubt that during the lockdown period, and to a larger extent now, there are a number of employers who sits in the seat of power relative to the worker. The worker needs to survive. The worker needs to get that income. Because in some instances, even if that worker has a job, his spouse or his child or children, or other breadwinners in the home may be without a job. And even if it is not in the immediate home, but given the nature of our society, where the working person has responsibility many times for the extended family, maybe a mother, a grandmother, a younger brother, a younger sister. So this has brought added pressure onto the worker. I'm aware of a number of workers. I've spoken to a large amount of workers who felt frustrated and wanted to quit from their job, who felt that they were being totally disrespected by the employer and therefore they wanted to leave their job. And I counseled them, and other union leaders would have counseled them to let us ride it out. Let us make the call that we have been doing publicly, that we have been calling as we are doing now for employers to respect the right of the worker. But it was one of those times that if you were to leave your job because of the employer being disrespectful, it may be harder for you. Now, if you are an individual, as we say, if you're a lone ranger, it might be easier. If you don't have chick nor chuck, yes, you can say, look, you see me on, I am not taking this, I'm going to walk. But many a times, one have to say, well, if it wasn't for my mother, if it wasn't for my child, if it was not for my wife, if it was not for my husband, then I would not have taken these. So this period is one where work with a number of employers. The industrial climate is as such, where the balance of forces have sort of shifted, and a number of employers are making use of this to try to whittle away the benefits that the workers had gained over the years. Benefits that we would have gotten through mutual agreement, yes? Yes, there have been battles, but what we enjoy today, the employers would have agreed to it. Fights, yes, there would have been fights, but the employers' rights also that they have. And we have called upon our members to respect the right of the worker. Respect the right of the employer. The employer have rights as to your hours of work, but they cannot, in other words, they cannot unilaterally do this, the size of the workforce, but there are procedures to be followed. Yes, the task to be given out once it is in conformity with what is expected of you. Right? Workers have to also understand that you are not the managers, you are not the owners. And you may not agree to certain things that the employers may do, but once it is within their right and once it is not a violation of your right, our advice is to do what is expected of you. Likewise, the employers, but we have seen more. It is easier for an employer to do something that is against a worker than for a worker to do that against an employer, because the worker would be dismissed. And we have had dismissals in this period, unfortunately so. In a period where, and we are calling upon workers to respect the right of the worker, go to work on time. Once there's a provision of transport, if you cannot make it on time, call the employer. Are you following me? Yes, do not leave work before time. Do what is necessary in this period. But at the same time, we call upon the employer to respect the right of the worker.
What about what role could TAU and the TUC play in relation to helping workers who may have trouble coping with this new normal? The folks who have been on lockdown for weeks, the folks who are unemployed because of the pandemic, how can TAU help these people cope?
Okay, so the Grenada Trade Union Council is very concerned about what we call the psychosocial impact. Because even if you are employed, even for those who have not lost their employment, even if they're on rotation, layoff, or even working from at home, or even working reduced hours, the lockdown itself would have had psychological impact on workers. The aspect of the what we call the psychosocial, there's a need for counseling. So we in the TUC, we will be reaching out, and through this medium also, but we'll be doing it officially, we'll be reaching out to the government to make a recommendation that there's a coordinated use of the counselors from the schools and the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Social Development. We have enough counselors outside that can be properly deployed. So we can have television programs. You can have television programs once a week, twice a week on GIS, MTV, GBN, the radio stations, where the counselors will go out and speak as to the different challenges that one may have gone through, and this is how you can deal with it. Yes? So these are some of the ways. From our organized point of view, our direct contact with our members, we have sent out and we will continue to send out messages of hope, reassurances to our workers, letting them know that we are still there, letting them know that this is a challenging period, but we'll all get through it together, letting them know that they can reach out to the unions and we'll make counselors available to them. One also has to respect the privacy of the worker, because some of these issues, workers may not be feeling too comfortable in just speaking in the open. So we have to make those facilities available. And our unions have done that. Our unions have tried to reach out to our members on our different social platforms. We continue to send out the need to be vigilant, the need to pay attention to your hygiene, the need to pay attention to the protocols, because there is a very real possibility. And my observation, is that we seem to be back to pre-COVID time, where we see, in some instances, almost the zero use of masks, zero application of physical distancing, etc. So we need to keep reassuring our comrades, our workers. And this is not just only for our unionized workers, but we are also more concerned about the ununionized workplaces. So that is why we want to use these public platforms to be able to reach out to the workers and to let the workers know, both unionized and non-unionized, that you can call any of our offices. You can call the Technical and Allied Workers Union. You can call the Public Workers Union. You can call the GUT. You can call the TUC, etc., CIW, Bank and General. And I'm absolutely confident that the officers in our organizations will be willing to assist you in terms of advice, whether you're a member of a union or not. Because this is not about unionized members now. This is about workers of a whole, generally.
Have you had workers reaching out to the offices, or have you heard of workers reaching out to the offices for that kind of support?
Yes, we have. I can speak with absolute authority in relation to TAU, and I'm also sure public workers. The TUC met. We continue to meet, and we had our meeting on the 15th of June, which would have been last week, Monday, and all of these matters were addressed. So we had all the various unions present at that TUC meeting. So we continue to take that united, organized approach to addressing those issues. Teachers, for instance, as you have heard recently, the president of teachers raised a very important issue, the issue of masking at the school, and the need to look at probably shields, which is something that we are concerned about, because the issue of wearing that mask and the type of mask, constantly breathing in and out carbon dioxide, could be unhealthy. Then the aspect of our kids, our children. School will be reopening pretty soon. In some instances it has, for I think Form 5s and 4, or 3 and 5.
Just 5.
Just 5. But the younger children will be going out to school. These children have not seen their friends and have missed their friends for a number of months. These children have not interacted with their friends for a number of months. And therefore there will be a high tendency when they go to school, regardless of the need for physical distances, that they may want to share their masks with each other. They may want to hug. Yes, they'll be happy to see each other. So there is a need for the state, for us as a people, to have animated television programs in an organized way, where it is pre-announced that every Thursday and every Saturday at 3 o'clock and 2 o'clock, whatever time, that there'll be this program for 1 hour, 2 hours, where there'll be someone speaking to the kids as to what to expect, some animated program. I think they had done that earlier in the period, probably about 2 months ago. I think the GIS used to have that, subject to correction. I think I'm very confident on this, but that has stopped. So we want to make that plea, that call for that re-engagement, not just of GIS, but as a public service, as the other networks to accommodate a program like this. It will not be easy on our kids. The psychosocial impact. We have lost relatives in the United States, even if we have not died from COVID in Grenada, but we have lost relatives in the United States, the UK, Canada. And so we have not been able to reach out to them in the traditional way that we could. And even in Grenada, we have buried comrades, we have buried friends, and we cannot go and show our empathy. We cannot go and in the traditional way of reaching out to the relatives, to the friends. And in some instances, quite a number of relatives are not able to go and give that final send-off, because in some instances it was limited, I think, to 10, right? And we understand that, but there must be certain a network to be able to assist people in going through this period. It is difficult. We have spoken to leaders, we have spoken to strong persons, and when they will explain to you the impact that the loss of a loved one or a friend would have had on them, because they cannot go, or they could not have gone to do the necessary send-off, or they could not have interacted with the family. Yes, in our union too, we have lost members and past members that we would have liked to go out and give the honorable send-out, but we have not been able to do that. This is the new normal, but it has had its impact. So there's a need for us to. I hear all the issues that the government and the states and others are addressing. It is not just about the dollars and cents. It is bread and butter, yes. But I'm not convinced, the labor movement is not convinced that the state has done enough to address the challenges that has been brought about by COVID-19. The psychological impact, the psychosocial impact, the impact on the kids. We are preparing for, as I said, the reopening of school. But what has been done to reach out to the kids? What has been done to reach out to the children? What has been done to let them know that this is what to expect? This is what you should be doing. So constantly drilling, re-drilling, and drilling. Because there will be challenges when we go back out to school. The kids will want to hug up. They will want to share their masks. They will want to share what they are eating. Because that's what they do. And we will be making a serious blunder if we believe that just being locked away for 3 months or 4 months or 5 months would mean that when we go back out, despite the fact that there have to be a change in behavior, that the kids and the children will be able to understand that and make that switch. We will be failing our people. And therefore, the question of the spread of COVID, if and when it comes back, because this is not the end of COVID. Let me repeat, this is not the end of COVID. And we'll get into our concerns about the reopening of the borders, which is something I would like to address. I just wanted to stick on that aspect of the kids and the workers, the psychological support for workers, workers having reduced work, reduced income. Some workers not sure when they'll be returning to work. The aspect of the stimulus package that has not been distributed to quite a number of workers who have been living in hope more than anything else, who have been living in expectation, who have followed all the necessary procedures, whose employers many times have followed the procedures, but quite a number of workers have not yet received any support from the stimulus package. It is very stressful on the worker. It is very, very stressful on the worker.
Before we go to the airport, let's look locally. The public transportation issue has been one that has been making the rounds. I saw a news release last week from the TUC. Share with us the union's position on how we can rectify this impasse between government and the bus operators.
First of all, allow us to extend our deepest appreciation and commendation to the members of the Bus Association and others who would have provided transportation to the essential workers and others during that period of the lockdown, when most of us were afraid to go outside because we did not want to contract the disease. But they, as the drivers, had to transport these workers, in some instances, with all the proper protective equipment. I want to commend them and salute them for that. Blossom, we will be making a mistake if we narrow down this discussion to a 50 cents or just concessions. This is a golden opportunity as COVID has given us. The TUC have said, and I want to repeat, that COVID has exposed the society. COVID has laid bare the challenges in society. And this impasse, challenge with the buses and the provision of service gives us an opportunity to address transport in a holistic manner. And I want to say kudos to the busmen for agreeing and implementing a sort of rotation system in the first instance. There are bigger issues. This is an opportunity where we can solve the efficient provision or lack thereof of transport 7 days a week and as late as probably midnight or beyond midnight. Too many of our workers, after 7 in the night or 8 in the night, cannot find their way at home. Or when they finish their job in the hotel sector, the very same hotel sector, the government rush to give this first major bailout. They who have made millions of dollars in the past and who have failed to even look after their employees, that the state have had to jump in and give them monies. And we are happy because the workers have gotten some of these monies. But the hotel sector, the government has pumped a lot of money into the hotel sector over the years. But in the hotel sector, when the workers finish their 11 o'clock shift, the $2,300 shift in the night, many a times they are drop off in St. George. Many a times they are drop off in Vendome. Many a times they are drop off by Boucherville Bridge. Many a times they are drop off by Redgate. And they have to walk at home or flog ride. And the vast majority of these workers are our sisters, our mothers, female. And quite a number of them have been exposed to all sorts of harassment. This is an opportunity to sit, and the TUC is willing to play that role. The TUC is willing to play a role to assist in working out an agreement with the necessary concessions for the busmen and for the state to result in a better transportation system. Better transportation system that, as I said, make sure that transport is affordable, accessible, and reachable. That transport do not stop run at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. And I'm speaking about throughout the country, throughout the island. That workers can know that they can go to work, finish at 10 o'clock in the night, finish at 11 o'clock in the night, finish at 12 o'clock, and they will find transport to take them back at home. That they can go to work on a Sunday and not having to walk, not having to leave for 2 and 3 hours before the start of work, hoping that you get a ride. And if rain comes, you get wet. So there's that opportunity that just as how the state would have given allowances to the airlines to ensure that passengers come. I'm just using this as an example. Concessions can be given to the public transport. Remember, it is private individuals providing public transport. And because it is private transport, there's an inherent right of private ownership to do what you want, yes? To run when you want, yes? But if we were to say that, look, if we go through the associations, and through the associations, we say that we give you X or Y percentage off as a concession on whatever equipment, whatever you require. Just using an example, be it fuel, be it parts, whatever it is. But in return, you must do the following. You must begin to work at least from 5 o'clock in the morning. That's an example. And go up to 12 midnight. For all the routes, there must be transport available on Sundays and on public holidays in the same manner. That will also lend itself to economic activities. That will lend itself to workers. Rather than having to rush from work many times to do an evening class from 4:30, they might be able to do an evening class from 5 or 5:30 until about 7, knowing fully well that they can get transport to go back home. So there's a all-round benefit. So we'll be missing the mark. We'll be missing the mark. And the government will be missing the mark if this discussion is only about a 50 cents, or if this discussion is about an isolated concession. Let us have a comprehensive discussion on using private transport as a public good. Private transport as a public good. And we are confident in the labor movement that this is very much manageable and affordable. Transportation is one of the more important sectors of our economy. The movement of people. Because when you're not able to move people within a timely manner, it impacts upon productivity. Many times you walk the road or you drive the road and you see people standing waiting on transport. Obviously, the busmen and the drivers and owners will have a responsibility to ensure they run the route. Because there's that responsibility. Let us tie some concession to a responsibility that you have to provide a high quality of service. Yeah. So the condition of your transport, the manner in which you dress, the manner in which you conduct yourself. This is a business. And I do hope that this period, as bad as it was, proved to the owners and drivers of the importance of their transport as a livelihood. And the state must recognize, and the workers must recognize, the importance of transport, because in the absence of the transport, while the busmen were fighting for their right, whether you agree with them or not, that's their right. While they're fighting for this, the workers were impacted. We couldn't go out to work, or we couldn't go to work on time. And even if the place had reopened, you were not guaranteed of being able to be safely driven to work. And just as one who would have used transport, private transport over the years, in terms of the public nature, going to school, I'm absolutely convinced that the vast majority of busmen, if not all, I think it would be all, are very reasonable and understanding people. Many times we went to school and didn't have money to pay bus, but they will take you. Many times the conductors will give you a ride, the drivers will give you a ride. Many times, and I'm sure that is happening today, we have quite a number of our people, the salary, which is so small, is not able to pay the transport, the proper fee to get them to and from work. Because transport is about a minimum of 30% or 35% of most workers' income. When you have other kids and other people. And I'm absolutely confident that quite a number of the bus operators takes less than what is normally due. And therefore, here is this opportunity, working through the associations, to get out of the TUC and say we are willing to play a role in this discussion and this dispensation. At the end of the day, we speak for workers, and workers are the ones that have to be transported to work out an arrangement. And let us not miss this opportunity to resolve the private transport as a public good.
Okay, well, let's take a break, and then we're going to come back with your thoughts on international transport, the reopening of MBIA. We are speaking with President General of the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union and President of the Trades Union Council, Andre Lewis. We're going to take a quick break and come back inside. This is To The Point.
You know, one day I woke up and, you know, they painted a set of pedestrian crossing all along the streets. You know, nobody told us how to use that thing properly.
I know how.
You're serious?
Every safe, good driver knows about these things. As a driver, you have to be very attentive. You know you're coming up close to a pedestrian cross, you start slowing down immediately, looking to see if there's any pedestrian on the side getting ready to cross. If there is, you stop on the line that is a certain distance before the crosswalk. Then you would see the pedestrian put their hands out, looking directly at you, indicating that they are going to cross. And only when you have come to a complete stop, that is when they will quickly and safely cross to the other side. And then you continue happily on your journey.
Stop, look, hand out, eye contact, wait for pedestrian to cross. Then you happily continue on your journey.
This message is brought to you by this group of insurance companies, the Traffic Advisory Body, and the Traffic Department.
Wait to see my granddaughter.
I'm Francis Urias Peters. To really know who I am, you must look at the plays that I've written over the past 30 years, because they reflect hard work, discipline, and my inner beliefs. Now, these values were shaped by my earlier bringings, because I was always curious about my roots and my identity as a Caribbean man. Now, I'm a good listener, and K105 has always been a great source of education and entertainment. Now, while the station name may have changed over the years, it has always provided valuable information which enabled me as a playwright to document and to celebrate our history, our behavior, and our achievements. K105 is my choice. It's the national station.
Welcome back to the Point, speaking with President General of the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union and President of the Trades Union Council, Andre Lewis. We're talking about labor in the workplace in these COVIDious times. Before we go to the phone lines, before the break, we spoke about public transportation being the buses. Now let's move to international transportation. Government has said once everything goes according to plan, the Morris Bishop International Airport reopens on the 1st of July, which is next week, Wednesday. What are the TUC's or the GTAU's thoughts on the reopening of the airport with the virus still very much out there?
Blossom, we are deeply concerned. As a matter of fact, the Caribbean Congress of Labour, in discussion with one of the responsible bodies within CARICOM, in discussing the matter on the reopening of the region, had shared its concerns to the regional body. And one of the key concerns had to do with the need for coordinated approach at the different islands. But more than that, the issue of being ready in the event that we were to have some outbreak. The aspect of having the necessary resources, test kits. We would need to know that we have a stock of test kits and how many test kits that we have. We would want to know what are the facilities for quarantine and how many beds we have. We would want to know the trained personnel for testing. What amount of trained personnel you have for testing? Because if there is an outbreak, there'll be a need to do quick and more in-depth testing. So what steps have been put in place to address those matters? And the need, as I say, for the general resources. The aspect of how do we ensure, as much as is possible, that the people that are coming into our borders are COVID-free or what is the status? Because as we speak, coming out of the United States, we will not rely on tests or so from the United States, and I'll tell you why. Although it is a world superpower, some may argue and say not as before. But certainly when it comes to the science of medicine, especially as it relates to COVID, we are very doubtful that the United States has been guided by the appropriate scientific approaches. We have seen that there have been this constant conflict between Dr. Fauci and let us say the White House or the president as to the state, what needs to be done, the need for testing. As a matter of fact, which he claimed to be a joke. We do not take this as a joke, because that's the modus operandi of the US president, where he had encouraged his people to slow down testing. And therefore, because they have different yardsticks, we are not sure that people who may come from the US, as an example, even if they are tested negative, may be negative. Then also taking into account that you can test negative now, but in 1 hour time or 2 hours time, you can be positive. And therefore, there's need at our borders to have the relevant facilities. And we ought not to reopen unless we have an adequate supply of these facilities. As we said, health comes first. We know that the economy has to go on. We know that. But we cannot jeopardize the lives and well-being of our people at the altar of those who are pushing for the economy. We are convinced in the TUC, and that's the link, that the mad rush to bring back out public transport on the road. Because if you listen to some of the arguments, you'll recognize that some of the things that they are now doing on the buses, in terms of sanitizing and having the necessary equipment, were not there when they opened. There's this constant battle, understandably so, that conflict, that contradiction between what we call the capitalists or the bourgeoisie, who wants the business to run, and even if a few people have to die, and those of us who would want to put people before profit. Yes, so we have to find that balance, but we need to ensure that health and well-being comes first. And even if they move to open, but they ought not to do so without ensuring that the necessary equipment and things are available, facilities.
Have any workers, specifically workers at MBIA, I know Tau represents some of them, have workers reached out to the union with their concerns, including whether they have enough PPEs for their employees or so?
What I will tell you is that our union, as you asked specifically of Tau, has been constantly monitoring the MBIA because we represent these frontline workers there. And as we did at the other ports, seaport, including Public Workers Union, etc., we have been constantly calling for the necessary provision of the adequate equipment.
Okay, let's go to the phone lines and the questions, comments, concerns from members of the public. In the interest of time, if we can please keep our phone calls to 1 minute or less, get directly to the question for Mr. Lewis so that he can answer them with a quickness. We only have less than 15 minutes on the program. The landline 435-2041. That number is also for the WhatsApp. Only written messages on the WhatsApp. You can pose your comments, questions, queries, concerns on the GBN Television Facebook page and the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel. Let's go to our first caller. Good morning.
Good morning, my wonderful lady. And how's everything?
I'm good.
Andrea, good morning. How was the weekend? How was the Father's Day? Now, labor in the country right now work with the, I think, don't in any case for a while. Unemployment will be kind of lower, higher. I think not low, higher in time to come. So what the credit union and NS and things will be looking for other ways and means to do business right now. They might cap the money. Trade unions and NIS come together and open some business and things to get work. And maybe in all parishes, do something in any case. Look for some piece of land and buy and invest and things that you want to get work and things in any case. And let the government talk to the government, let it turn this country around and pay people weekly and fortnightly instead of monthly. Money coming too long in this time right now, and money is very scarce in this time right now. Try and pay people weekly, fortnightly, and who want to have money, no problem, in a meeting still. And let the government get a bus system running. Talk to the government, let get a public transport system in place in Grenada. It's time inside the private buses, let the government own buses to have people working and have a system working daily. Because you see, private people bus work when they want to work, so let the government get buses to run.
Thank you very much, caller. Mr. Lewis?
We would like to see a dedicated transport for at least school children.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Calling GBN.
Yes, it is. Go ahead, please.
Yes. I want to touch on the public transport, like with the buses.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the buses, general, island-wide, they need to be in unity. As we have a saying that unity is strength. And whatever program you're in, clubs or whatsoever, wherever there is a division, whatever program you have, it will not stand. It will fail. And I think if the bosses, they all put themselves together and form themselves in proper association and get everybody, not some here supporting and some not supporting, but they can get everybody to come together, they will have strength. So when they approach, whether the government or whosoever, to negotiate on certain things, they will have strength because they have the unity. And they will be more progressive.
Thank you, caller. Yes, I understand. Thank you very much, caller. Mr. Lewis?
That's a truism. I mean, remember, we are trade unionists, and we understand when you have struggles and there are differences within the rank, that can impact. But yes, unity is strength.
There is a question on the WhatsApp. Why has there not been an official announcement for the reopening of the public service? One of the issues, they fail to have discussion with workers as to the way forward.
Thanks, and I want to thank that person for asking that question. There's a concern that we have in the labor movement, the Public Workers Union, Technical Allied Workers Union in particular, and we have raised it in the relevant quarters. We have found that there is a lackluster approach to the reopening of the public service. We do not want to say that it may be possible that at some stage they may want to use and say that, look, we had workers at home and we are paying them, and that shows that we're interested in workers. We don't want to go down that road, but we have expressed that deep concern. Our workers are raring to go out to work. Yes, we want to go out to work. And just as a concern, that during the period, as we had said in other quarters, of the lockdown, whatever steps that were necessary to ensure a friendly environment for the workers, a safe and secure environment for the workers, could have been done during that period. And for some reasons, it was not being done. And an attempt is made to do it now. Yes, but we are very concerned about the delayed opening, very, very concerned about the delayed opening, and what appeared to have been a lack of urgency on the part of the employer in the public sector to have us return to work in a safe, let me say, in a safe and non-compromising manner. Yes, and some of the things that have been done now ought to have been done before, and we have said that elsewhere, so I'm grateful for that observation, just to put it outside there.
Explain how someone could be tested negative now and within 3 to 4 hours test positive. That's a question for the health officials on this.
I have heard it, but I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, that's a question for health officials. Yeah. Mr. Lewis, let's get the ball rolling to see this dream come through. I look forward to the day when we can get all-round transportation in Grenada.
We too, in the labor movement, and we give that commitment, we will pursue this.
Back to the phone line. Good morning.
Yeah, Mr. Lewis. Good morning. It's hurt me to know that workers have worked, whether in a restaurant, whether in hotel, and they have paid the money to management in the hotel, and now for them to get help from the NIS. The management deducted the money from the people's salary. Now, tell me something. If they deducted it, and now the people in the restaurant and hotel are not being approached, maybe by you or the government, and say, what did you do with the people money? You all have to pay them, or we have to collect the money from them and then give them what is due to them. What is responsible for that? Nobody cannot attack when I say attack, I don't mean to fight, attack the restaurant and the hoteliers to make them pay the pay and let the people get the money. Is it because we sort of are uniting with the hotel? It could be youth uniting, I don't know. Or you're getting a cut, or somebody might be getting a cut, or more than a cut.
Thank you very much, caller.
Okay, let me just take the positive side of this. Workers need to understand the following. And NIS is obligated to do the following. In cases where a worker worked and either monies were deducted from their salaries and not paid to the NIS, or monies were not deducted and paid to the NIS, once that employee can demonstrate to the NIS that they actually worked, they must be treated under the same banner as those who contributions was made to them. The NS has to go after the employer, but no worker should be denied their benefit where the payment of NIS is a condition, and that was not done. No worker should be denied that benefit. The law is very clear. It is the responsibility of the employer to make that deduction and pay it into the NIS. So even in cases where, and there have been cases where some workers never wanted NIS to be paid out from their salaries because they want, and I hope they realize that now and address that going forward. But the employer is obligated under the law to make that deduction. So even if you worked and there were no contribution made on your behalf, NIS cannot or ought not to deny you whatever benefits that they are now for you to receive on the basis that you did not pay, once you can demonstrate. Use your pay advice slip, and I know in some instances you're not giving your pay advice slip. The law requires that. As I say, COVID has addressed a number of matters, and therefore going forward, ensure that each worker receive the pay advice slip. And NIS is obligated to treat with that worker as though he or she paid NIS once they worked.
Really? Well, look, I learned something there now. There's another question on the WhatsApp. Can you, are the unions doing anything, or can the unions do anything about companies that have used the lockdown to say it is staff vacation? A certain company even tell the workers they lose their 2021 vacation as well.
Well, we have said that that's wrong. And we have fought it in some companies. We have been successful. Some we have not. We are still outstanding. But annual vacation is a leave that is earned by the worker, and where the state indicated that you cannot come out to work, we do not see how any employer in their right mind can use this or unilaterally make that decision to use the annual vacation leave. I want to leave the door open here. And there are times that one would have to engage in discussions because there may be different circumstances at different workplaces. But as a principle, where the state has declared you that you cannot go out to work, it is just unacceptable that an employer will use that to get rid of a liability. That's what some of them have done. Even in some places where the retail stores, supermarkets, and them have made more money now than they have made during Carnival and Christmas, they still rush to take workers' annual vacation leave as a means of getting rid of that liability. It's a battle of the class.
Mr. Lewis, can you comment on TAU's recent press release on a particular company laying off staff?
Well, not laying off staff. Well, what I do know is that Codes Grenada Limited has unilaterally violated the collective agreement, have taken it upon themselves to ruthlessly and in a barbaric manner retrench a worker who had given almost 30 years of loyal and continuous service to the company without following the necessary protocol in the collective agreement. A company that met as recently as the 14th of May with the union. And at that meeting, we left there the following, indicating that we want to preserve jobs, so we do not want anyone to lose their jobs. Let us discuss what can be done in terms of the workers' benefit, where we can make certain compromises to hold on to the jobs. And most importantly, the company was at that stage of the discussion because the state did not yet give them the permission to reopen. The only part of the business that were allowed to reopen was in the eye clinic, yes? But immediately following our discussion, they were given permission by the state to open. And therefore, it was our appreciation that these challenges would have been put on hold or go away. The next thing we know is that we receive a correspondence today indicating that this worker is no longer with the company. The worker was called in. And it's a good thing that he's strong. He has called in into a meeting. He went into that meeting expecting to discuss operations of the company that he had responsibility for, and to be told by the company, today is your last, pack and go. Our collective agreement calls for a particular procedure to be followed, and we shall ensure, the Technical and Allied Workers Union shall ensure that this company do not get away with this. Other companies may want to follow this. As we say that these are COVID years times, yes, there are challenges, but it does not mean that you should unilaterally and blatantly disregard collective labor agreement. We are down to meet with the company today, and we see what happens from there, but we will go after this company. We have a duty and an obligation for our members, all the members, right? That this company, and as I said in another program, look to see what may be happening either this week or next week, and you see how the company have sent home workers, or want to send them workers, and then use that period now to upgrade itself. It's all about itself, right? At a time when workers have given all this loyal years of service to want to ruthlessly, what happens to that worker dependent? Or do you call your wife or your children and say, look, as of today, I no longer have a job. I do not know what will happen to you tomorrow. Where is the conscience of these companies? Where is their social responsibility? They are quick to sponsor things nationally so that their names will be seen outside there. But when it comes to treating their workers, right, in a respectful and humane manner, this period has given them an opportunity to think that they could just ruthlessly run roughshod over workers. In Grenada, we will not allow that to happen.
We're out of time. Any final words? 2 minutes, Mr. Lewis, as we wrap up the program.
Quickly, that the workers who are working at home, it is important to go into an understanding with your employer as to who will provide the tools, There's a shift of expenses from the company's location to yours, electricity, etc. The equipment may cause fire at your home, so the need for insurance, the need for those type of things need to be addressed. What happens if your place burn because you are using a computer given to you by your company? Or what happens if your place burn because you are using an equipment, doing your work from at home that would normally be done at the companies, and you do not have the necessary insurance? Who will take care of the responsibility? What will happen if you meet in an accident at home, right? If you're sitting on your chair, or if you're walking and you ought to fall, twist your foot, what happens? Whose responsibility? Would this be a workplace injury? In our view, yes, but these things need to be worked out. And we will be pursuing those things to have a generalized discussion to ensure that there are systems in place to address these matters. It is not just a matter of working from at home. What will happen to the kids who have to go to school? What will happen to the kids that you have to drop off, not at your home? What will happen to your work-life balance? Does the employer have 24/7 access to you because you have a gadget at your home now? Yes? What would happen when you're at home and you have to look after your child? And the employer is demanding something of you, but you have to look after your child. What is the arrangement for that? And therefore, we are calling on employers where there's a need for a worker to work from at home because of the conditions at work at the workplace may not be conducive at this moment, to show a humane side, to understand that there are challenges that the worker will be having at home that they would not have at the workplace. And therefore, we need to address this matter. So, Blossom, we look forward to continuing those discussions. We look forward to workers reaching out to us, and we'll reach out to workers. We have a duty and an obligation, and we give that commitment to pursue our rights and our responsibilities in this period. And the aspect of the minimum wage must be addressed. Aspect of the minimum wage must be addressed, and not just minimum wage, but the sanitation workers and the supermarket workers and the gas station workers who were out in the forefront while we are at home hiding cannot be continued to be paid, right, as those pittance at which they are paid. And therefore, there's a national discussion that we must get in, and a national fight that we must undertake in the interest of the working class of this country. Let's go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lewis. We'll definitely make this a regular occurrence so we can deal with all the labor issues. Thank you. Have yourself a good day. Stay safe.
Same to you, and thank you.
All right. We want to thank Mr. Lewis, President General of TAU and President of TUC, for being our guest this morning. We will make arrangements to ensure that he is one of our regular guests on To The Point. And that's the end of my time today. Already stole 5 minutes of Joseph's mid-morning buzz. We thank him once again for his patience. Be safe. Sahara dust, COVID-19. Wear your masks and stay healthy. Have yourselves a productive Monday.